joining us tonight. A few quick housekeeping tips before we dive in. The session is going to be recorded and it will be shared within 48 hours with all of you, including the live poll conversations, including the key takeaways. So, and I request all of you to stay on mute and keep your videos switched off so that there are no hindrances. For the question and answer session, we are going to have an exclusive question and answer session towards the end of the webinar today. Now, let me also quickly take some time to introduce you to TaUB Solutions. So TaUB Solutions is into a global training, coaching, and consulting company where we empower digital and business transformation. We are over 11 plus years and are globally present in US, India, Singapore, and Australia. On the digital transformation side, we help in capability building, and our core areas are site reliability engineering, observability, AI ops, tools, and platform-based training. On the business transformation side, we have business relationship management, experience level agreements, change management, and humanizing IT. We also provide enable learning through gamification and simulation. Now, let me quickly, go back to, I'm sorry. Okay, so I'd like to now introduce you to today's host. As you see, the webinar topic is human signal over digital noise, building exceptional customer experience. Our host tonight is Sudhanshu Mishra, who is the head of customer service at Ozontel. He's the vice president of enterprise sales and customer success at Ozontel Communications. Ozontel powers customer interactions for over 2,500 businesses across India and globally, processing billions of conversations through their AI-powered CX platform. Sudhanshu brings over 3 decades of enterprise leadership experience across Oracle, Wipro, CA Technologies, and HealthFox. He is an IIM alumnus and an ICF certified executive coach, and a deeply respected voice on leadership and human side of technology. Our host tonight is Mr. Khalidas, who heads enterprise sales and India operations for TaUB Solutions, a seasoned enterprise technology leader with over 4 decades of experience across HCL, Wipro, and Microsoft. Over to you, Kali sir.
Thank you, Neeta, and Sudhanshu, wonderful to have you here. I've been looking forward for these conversations because you bring up a perspective I think our audience would love to hear. Most of the customer experience conversations start with technology, like which platform, which AI, which automation. But you start with something very different. You have written that a leader's job isn't the funnel that pours pressure into the team. It is to be a filter that shields them so that they can focus on what matters. So, and you have argued in a high pressure economy, organizations end up hiring mercenaries when they should actually hire architects. So that's where I want to start actually. When it comes to customer experience, what's the difference between this mercenary approach and this architect approach, Sudhanshu? Sudhanshu, yeah? Sudhanshu, you're on
She's
mute.
on mute. Yeah.
I'm so sorry I missed that. So thank you very much, Kali and TaUB Solutions. Thanks, Neeta, for the warm introduction. You've hit the you started with the first question, which is very close to my heart actually. Let me share something from our journey at Ozontel. I've been with this company for close to 4.5 years, and some of our customers, because we work closely with the customer experience functions in many of our customer organizations. At Ozontel, we power contact centers across multiple industry segments like e-commerce, financial services, real estate, healthcare, and billions of conversations are held on our platform. So what made our customer experience transformation real wasn't the AI that we deployed. It was a leadership decision about how we treated our own people. Early on, our best customer outcomes came from individual heroes, which happens in a lot of small companies when they start off, right? People who went above and beyond. But heroism doesn't scale. And worse, it actually burns people out. So we asked, what are these heroes doing differently, not just tactically, but also emotionally? The answer was always the same. They genuinely cared. They felt safe to take unconventional decisions and actions. They would escalate something which was outside their scope, but they would push back on the process uh, to make sure that a decision or an action that was hurting the customer was corrected quickly. They would spend extra time because their own judgment said that the customer needed it. So the architect's job, as against a mercenary's job, is to make that behavior the norm. So we encoded it into our systems. We automated health scores at risk accounts, for at-risk accounts, and agent assist prompts. I spoke about that briefly when we were interacting earlier. Agent assist software which helps agents in clarifying and encourages them to clarify questions before jumping to solutions. And also, these systems work only because people trust that using their own judgment won't get them punished. Technology amplifies the culture. And if the culture is fear based, technology will amplify fear. If the culture is trust based, then technology amplifies trust. So, I mean, I know I've given a long answer to your short question, but I hope I've made the point that you were looking for.
Absolutely. So, if I were to look at that, powerful frame of, legacy, what does an architect leadership look like in practice when you are building a customer experience culture in an organization?
As I said, an architect actually focuses on building the filter and not the funnel, right? Architect actually helps to amplify the culture of trust, fairness, empowerment, autonomy at the lowest level in the organization. That's the difference. And when you encourage that behavior, when you let people who indulge in such behavior succeed, reward them, recognize them, it basically takes care of the challenge of customer experience that a lot of organizations struggle with.
Sure. So one of the things you mentioned was that technology amplifies whatever culture already exists. I mean, you mentioned that and very articulated it pretty well that if it is trust that gets amplified, if it is fear that gets amplified. Okay. And you mentioned that people feeling safe to take unconventional actions. That's like psychological safety, right? So most people associate it with internal team dynamics, but what you're saying is that you draw a direct line between that kind of a culture to customer experience. Can you make that connection a little more explicit for us? What do you mean by that?
Uh, So, here's how the chain works. An agent is on a call, customer is frustrated, they've called three times about some error or some problem they're facing. The process says apologize, log a ticket, escalate, and 48-hour resolution. That's the script. But the agent can hear this customer at the end of their rope. The customer is actually losing is as the end of their frustration. And there the agent can actually pull in the supervisor, uh, maybe issue a goodwill credit right there, depending on the situation, and that may mean deviating from the script. And in many organizations that may be risky. It may mean a long handle time, some unauthorized credit, negative QA score, etc. But it'll solve the customer's problem. It'll retain the customer. And if the agent follows the script and closes the ticket, the dashboard will turn green, but the customer will leave the business, right? That's the cause of the missing psychological safety. The agent knew the right thing to do, but didn't feel safe doing it. Now, flip it. In an organization where the agent feels trusted, where the leaders has said, use your judgment, I'll back you up. That agent takes a different action. He resolves it in a real time, and then the customer just doesn't stay, but they become an advocate. So psychological safety inside the organization directly produces better human moments outside the organization. You cannot have exceptional CX without it. I mean, that I
Fantastic.
take from my experience.
Absolutely. I think a lot of us can relate to what you're basically saying because a lot of time the call agents are reading the script. You really know what it is, where the
Yeah.
solutions could be a lot different. Absolutely. Such a very clear through line, and it connects something broader. So there is a growing recognition across ITSM, traditional SLAs miss exact this. The SLA says the ticket has to be closed on time, but tells you nothing whether the human is being served, is feeling as if he or she is being served. I think that gap is a driving shift towards what we are in TaUB are also talking about experience level agreements, which measure actual human experience, human sentiment. And what you're describing is a a cultural precondition to that shift to work. Let's just come back to that. I mean, you talked about metrics, which can suppress the human signal. What should organizations measure differently, according to you, Sudhanshu?
So, a dashboard can tell you a project is behind schedule, but it cannot tell you that the lead engineer is quietly burnt out, or a junior team member had a brilliant idea, but they were too hesitant to share it. Same with customer experience. Your dashboard says 95% calls answered in 20 seconds. It can't tell you that the customer felt rushed or unheard or invisible. What I would encourage is layering human signal metrics alongside operational metrics. Three things. Effort signals: how hard did the customer work? Did they switch channels? Did they have to repeat their story? We track channel switching at Ozontel. Our platform actually helps our customers track channel switching. So if someone starts on chat, ends up calling, that's a failure signal regardless of the chatbot's resolved tag. Second, emotion signals, real-time sentiment analysis on voice. Not was the customer happy after, but at which moment did the frustration spike during the conversation? That's a leading indicator. And of course, the third and very important signal is the agent confidence signals. Is your agent hesitating, asking permission on things that they should decide? That's not a training gap, that's a trust gap. So combine objective data with subjective experience data, and you get a true experience scorecard, not just a service scorecard. That's a shift from ledger to legacy.
Absolutely. Great, great. So let's test our audience. I'm just going to run a quick poll and let's see what the audience says with what they just heard. So I'm just launching one poll, which basically says, where does the human signal get lost most in your organizations? So I request everyone to please choose the option on the screen, and I will definitely share as soon as I end the poll. Okay. I'm sure Sudhanshu is also seeing interesting data points which are coming. I'll just wait for a couple of more seconds before I close the poll. All right, so let me just quickly end the poll and I will share the results. I see Keith saying we should have all of the above options. Yeah, probably true. So, Sudhanshu, any quick reactions to the poll?
Yeah. Notice something, that none of these options is a technology problem. Every single one is a leadership choice or a leadership challenge. We chose to measure speed over connection. We choose to lead from dashboards instead of from presence. The beautiful thing is that everyone is also fixable, and without a massive technology investment, it just starts with the leadership intent and how leadership or the leaders of the organization, the kind of examples they set for the team. What changed things in our own engagements at Ozontel and other customer organizations that I've worked with is when the organization decided to send senior leaders, not just support leaders, but even sales leaders, product leaders, leaders from other functions to spend time listening to live customer calls each month. And not just reading summaries of calls or transcriptions of calls, but actual calls, actually listening by getting on the phone. When you hear a customer's voice crack, or when you hear them say, "This is the fourth time I'm explaining this," it changes every decision you make. The human signal is always there. The question is whether leaders create space to hear it. And that's the difference between an organization with great CX and average CX.
I think that's really, really nice. The pearls of wisdom, Sudhanshu. Let's go a little deeper on this. And I follow your LinkedIn post, and you've written that psychological safety isn't a corporate buzzword. It's simple, respectful act of making every person feel their voice actually counts. So, how does a customer experience leader operationalize this whole thing at such a large scale of like a 15,000 agent contact center or something of that sort, based because these are your customers whom you are dealing with? How do they do that?
Yeah, so I was actually expecting this question. So let me be practical. There are three things that a leader can start doing from tomorrow. These things cost nothing but change everything. First, change what you celebrate. So most contact centers celebrate shortest handle time or most closed tickets, etc. What if you celebrated the agent who turned a furious customer into a loyal one? Shared that recording in the team huddle and said, "This is what great looks like." Celebration signals what organization truly values, not what the poster on the wall says, right? Second, make escalation safe. In many organizations, escalating feels like admitting failure. Leaders need to explicitly reframe it as good judgment. When an agent escalates, the response should be, "Good catch, let's solve this together," and not, "Why couldn't you handle this?" Third, the hardest one, share your own mistakes. I've been in this industry over 30 years. I've made calls I'm not proud of. When I share those stories genuinely with my team, it gives them permission to be imperfect. The permission is the foundation. If the leader is perfect, nobody else feels safe being human. And, mistakes are made by humans. So we built some of this into Ozontel's platform also, and many of our customers follow this too. Our agent assist module doesn't just tell agents what to say, it gives them a safety net also. So context, suggested approaches, confidence that they are making the right call, technology as an enabler of courage and not a replacement of it. That's how the this leadership approach works.
Wow, that's really, really great, Sudhanshu, to hear this. Technology as an enabler for courage. Okay, so now the AI question everyone is thinking about is AI promises efficiency, right? But psychological safety requires some space for inefficiency. So the extra minute of call, that unscripted conversation. So how do you reconcile when there is this huge conflict on, driving more efficiency? And here we are also trying to propagate that the call agent needs to take that extra mile to understand the customer. What would be your, answer to this kind of a contradiction?
I'll be honest, I've run enterprise sales for an AI powered CX platform, so I'm not coming at this from outside. My honest view, in a world obsessed with AI efficiency and billable hours, let's not automate away our basic human empathy. That's not just sentiment, it's a business argument. AI excels at the predictable: order status, password resets, invoice downloads. Automate those. Customers prefer self service for them. But the moment there's emotion, a disputed charge, a health concern, a broken promise, you need a human with full context, trained in empathy, and empowered to act. At Ozontel, our AI does real-time intent classification also. It listens to the first 15 seconds, reads not just what the customer is asking, but also the emotion behind it. For example, I've been trying to resolve this for a week. Triggers a different routing, senior agent, full context preloaded, authority to resolve on the spot. The AI handles the data and the routing. The human handles the moment. Automate the predictable, humanize the emotional. The organization is getting this wrong. Set rigid handle time targets and deploy AI to enforce them. That's not AI powered CX. That's like surveillance dressed up as innovation.
Very, very true. So quick follow-up question, Sudhanshu, on this. Chat GPT, LLMs, generative AI, what's the real versus hype in the customer experience point of view?
Yeah, Kali, this is a very, very tricky
Loaded.
question and something that everybody's grappling with. The hype says replace your agents with AI, but the reality actually says make your agents extraordinary. Real value right now is auto summarization of every conversation into the CRM, so the next agent has perfect context. AI powered knowledge repositories, agents can query in real time. Coaching insights from analyzing thousands of interactions. All that is the strength of the LLM or the AI engine that you're using. But running ahead of reality, fully autonomous AI handling complex emotional conversations end to end, we are not there yet. And honestly, I'm not sure we should be. The goal is not to remove the human, it's to remove the friction so the human can connect, empathize, and make someone feel heard. The human signal is the only thing that keeps the system running. Automate everything around it, but protect the signal itself.
Phenomenal, phenomenal. So we talked about gap between metrics and actual experience. So let's another poll. I just want to have a quick thing from a poll perspective with our audience and see what they say. Let me run another poll, okay, just to understand what metrics. So I request everyone to again use your cursor's mouse and just give a quick response to this. We are getting a quicker response here. Just wait for a couple of. Just wait for a couple of seconds. So there's a few more people. I will just end the poll. All right. So let me share the results. So any quick comments, Sudhanshu?
Yeah, actually picking A or B and thinking that you are completely covered uh, is a dangerous position to be in. If you are at C or D, even D actually, uh, it's okay. That means you're still better off than what you think. But if you are at A and B and you think that you're completely covered, I think you have a lot to do. Practical advice is to start with the customer journey. Whichever is your highest volume customer journey, map every touch point, and at each touch point, ask what do we measure and how does the customer feel here. You'll find plenty of operational data, but almost no experience data. That's your gap. So layer in one human signal, a post interaction sentiment check, a real time voice sentiment check, even a single effort score. Track how it correlates with retention and repeat purchase. The business case writes itself. You don't need a transformation, you need one well instrumented journey which measures the entire customer journey in your organization.
So let's talk about scaling a bit, Sudhanshu. I mean, your organization, Ozontel, has grown very rapidly. You've been through that journey. So how do you maintain that human signal when everything, is pushed towards standardization and speed and efficiency?
Yeah. So one moment, just one moment. I was getting a call in between, so my connection disrupted for a moment. Uh, this is actually deeply personal. I've written about it in bits and pieces on LinkedIn also. That a leader's role is to be the filter and not the funnel. When a business is scaling, there is enormous noise. There's market pressure, there's investor expectations, there are competitive threats. A funnel leader pours all that noise onto their teams. Every anxiety becomes an urgent directive. Every competitor move becomes like a fire drill. The team is constantly reactive, constantly anxious, and customer experience suffers because nobody has space to be genuinely present. A filter leader absorbs the noise, processes it, and transmits only what is essential. They shield their team so the team can focus on work that actually matters, which in CX terms means being fully present for the customer. In our scaling phase at Ozontel, the pressure was to just add capacity. The funnel approach would have been throw everything at the wall. Instead, we made a deliberate choice. We standardized the infrastructure, we personalized the experience, the tech stack, the data flows, quality framework, standardize the backbone. But the actual interaction with the customer, give your people freedom and data to be genuinely human. I think of it like a jazz band, structure, chord progressions, tempo, form. But within that structure, each musician improvises. That's CX at scale. Structure ensures consistency, improvisation ensures humanity. The leader's job is to protect the space for improvisation and for being human at the lowest level in the organization.
Fantastic. Sudhanshu. So even at TaUB for us now, we see this constantly when we work with organizations on building strategic relationship capabilities. The human capability is often bigger than the technology gap. Okay. What skills do you think like a CX leader need that most organizations, in your view, are not really focusing on?
Uh, there are three things, and maybe in the order of difficulty. One is journey thinking. Most CX teams are organized by channel, chat team, voice team, email team, etc. But customers think in journeys. I need to resolve this issue crosses three channels and four departments. Leaders have to think across those silos. Secondly, the data storytelling. First call resolution dropped 5% is a metric. 200 customers a month call back three times because we are resolving the symptom, not the cause, costing 15 crore annually in churn. That's a story that gets the budgets approved. And the hardest, empathetic leadership, which is my favorite. Not empathy as a nice to have, as a fundamental requirement for moments when things aren't going well. Leaders who listen to calls, not just reports, who understand the emotional labor of frontline work, who create environments where people feel safe to be brave, safe to learn, and safe to grow. The external experience is always a reflection of the internal culture of an organization. Always.
Wow. Okay. What about mid-market small companies who feel this is only for large enterprises? What would be your reaction to such customers?
Actually, mid-market companies, I think, have an advantage. You are closer to customers. Your CEO probably still talks to the customers. The human signal is naturally stronger. The risk is that as you scale, you import large enterprise bad habits, rigid scripts, siloed teams, metrics rewarding speed over substance. Don't. And on technology, the playing field has never been more level. Cloud-based platforms have eliminated the capital barrier. What's not affordable is building a culture of fear. That's the one technology can't fix. So that's what the leadership has to focus on, whether it's a small organization growing to mid-market or mid-market growing to large enterprise.
Great, great. So let's do a quick rapid fire kind of questions to you. Quick questions
Okay.
and quick answers,
It's
Sudhanshu.
very
That's okay with you.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Let me see what I can.
So one leadership habit every CX leader should adopt.
Listen to three random customer calls every week. Not curated, not pre-planned or prepared, but random calls. That's where the truth lives.
The biggest red flag you see in a customer CX culture which you feel is broken.
When customers stop complaining.
Oh,
Silence is
wow.
not
Oh, okay.
satisfaction, it's resignations. So same internally, when your team stops pushing back, that's not alignment, that's fear.
Very interesting what you say. In fact, Sudhanshu, I'd like to add this particular point, what you're basically saying that when customers stop complaining. And I'll give the reverse of it. I remember at the time when I was in Wipro, I had this specific portfolio of customer satisfaction, and I used to get very frustrated because I used to supposed to solve all the problems of the customer. And I remember in one of the review meetings when some of these frustrations were coming up, AHP Premji would actually mention this, that a customer who's complaining is actually giving you free consultancy. Okay. Which is like, again, which is an amazing statement saying that, if a customer is complaining, he or she is actually telling you what problems you have in your organization, which you probably might have to pay to get the same information. So I absolutely agree with you, probably that if if the customers are stopped complaining, that's a wrong signal because that means they've really given up on you. So yeah, absolutely. So if I were to ask you to complete this sentence, in the world of digital noise, the human signal is, what would you say?
In a world full of digital noise,
Human signal.
uh, the human signal is the only thing that actually keeps the system running. Automate everything around it, but protect the human signal by itself. I think that's very, very important, and every leader needs to remember.
Fantastic. So let me just run another poll. At this point of time, I would love to, just get a quick dipstick feedback of how the customers of our audience here are feeling. I'm just running a third poll on XLA. And this is our TaUB's offering. So let me just get a quick feedback from. Just wait for a couple of seconds. All right, so let me just end the poll and share the results quickly. This is more from our internal talks perspective. So end of our this webinar in the next couple of minutes, we'll share some of the things which TaUB, we do a lot of training. I think some of the certification courses will share with you what it is. And then, so thanks for this poll. So Sudhanshu, let me just pull all the threads together, what you mentioned. Sudhanshu started by showing us that, customer experience isn't a technology problem. It's actually a leadership and a culture problem. He made the case that the psychological safety inside the organization directly produces human movements outside. That metrics can suppress the human signal if we are not very careful. And that's the leader's job to filter, not the funnel. Protecting space for genuine human connection, even as the organization scales. I mean, I think he gave very good examples of how, even at a scale level, you could basically not lose the human signal. This exact realization is driving a global movement in IT service management called human-centric XLAs. That is the experience level agreements. The idea is pretty simple but powerful. Go beyond your SLAs to measure what Sudhanshu has been describing today. Not just whether the service is delivered, but whether the human being is being felt that being served. XLAs combine objective operational data with subjective experience data, the experience scorecard. I think Sudhanshu articulated very well to create these clear commitments, clear visibilities, and collaborative governance. The principles are identical whether you're talking about customer experience or even employee experience, because that's something we didn't cover much out here. But whatever Sudhanshu talked about, I think this can pivot towards an internal employee experience also. And as Sudhanshu said, the external experience is always a reflection of our internal culture. So if somewhere we feel that this is our internal culture, and then while we talk to our customers, we don't talk like that, I mean, you're fooling yourself. So your external experience will always reflect that internal culture. See, at TaUB Solutions, we help organizations build these capabilities. For example, we do BRM for strategic relationship management, XLA for experience measurement. If something resonated with you tonight, okay, I would encourage you to explore some of these frameworks, which can bring structure to the instinct which you probably already have. So Sudhanshu, before we open to a Q&A, and can you just leave one thought from your side which they can act on tomorrow?
Uh, well, I think I've said this before, but tomorrow morning, before you open any dashboard or before you check any metrics, before you read any emails, listen to one customer call, a random one. Listen for the sigh, the pause, uh, listen to their frustration. Like, this is the third time I'm calling. That's your human signal. Then ask yourself, did my organization make it safe for the agent on that call to truly listen and truly act? Because if the answer is no, no amount of technology will fix what's broken. Our job as leaders is to protect that signal, to be the filter, not the funnel, to build a legacy, not just the ledger.
Fantastic. So one last question to you, Sudhanshu, before I open it up to the Q&A. You talked about celebrating the right behaviors because you mentioned that. But sometimes incentive structures reward volume and speed. So how do you change that without disrupting the operations?
You don't need to overhaul everything. Add one experience-based metric to what you're already measuring, a customer effort score or a moment of impact recognition from supervisor. Make it visible, celebrate it publicly. Once you signal that the organization values human connection, people self-correct. They are not doing the wrong thing because they want to. They're doing it because the system rewards it. Change the signal, the behavior will follow.
Cool. So I'm getting a little greedy now. Maybe I'll ask one other question, Sudhanshu. Probably you would have covered it, but just want to get this perspective again. How do you build this psychological safety in a remote or a hybrid contact center? Sudhanshu, what your
Yeah,
take?
that's a very interesting question. See, the fundamentals don't change, but the mechanisms change. You need deliberate design, weekly one-on-ones that aren't about metrics, but how are you doing? Team huddles, sharing customer stories, messy ones, beautiful ones, and crucially, be visible about your own struggles as a leader. In a remote world, leaders can become invisible. Just a name on a Teams group or a Slack. When you share a moment of vulnerability, it gives permission to be human. So technology helps. Our dashboards show patterns, someone on back-to-back difficult calls, someone whose wrap-up time is spiking. A supervisor can reach out and say, tough morning, take a breather, I've got your cue. Uh, that's a human moment enabled by technology. That's the filter, not the funnel.
Interesting. But how do you justify investing in psychological safety when you have a cost conscious, you're on a company which is cost conscious and the board which is like pushing heavily back on investments? How do you justify getting into psychological?
It actually the maths just adds up. When an agent doesn't feel safe to deviate from a prescribed script and then they close a ticket that is not resolved. The customer calls back, repeat contact costs again, cost the company. The customer churns, revenue loss happens, agents burn out and quit, rehiring cost increases. When the same agent feels empowered to spend 2 extra minutes and truly resolves it, repeat contact disappears, then the customer stays, the agent stays. That's ROI you can show in a spreadsheet. You don't sell psychological safety to the board, you sell the cost of its absence. It's
Yeah,
like so uh,
that
I know
makes
it's
sense.
very difficult to put numbers to it immediately, but if when you start seeing a pattern, you can actually see the difference of the difference that the absence of psychological safety is making.
Correct, correct. So the interesting you're saying that because in some of these customer experience surveys and which we are also trying to incorporate, one of the questions is not how quick, for example, the issue resolved, But by the time it got resolved, what was the loss of your productivity? Okay, if you put those numbers, probably the customer sentiment and the experience part of it, comes, because a lot of time my customers also say, how do you measure sentiment? I mean, how do I measure experience? These are all very intangible, KPIs which are there. But probably it's the reverse of that. And if you don't measure what is your loss, what is your business loss which you are doing, is probably would make a lot of sense. I think that's fantastic. So thanks. So I would like to open it up for any Q&A. I think we have a very good audience across. If there are anyone who would like to basically please unmute yourself, or you want to put it in chat. Sudhanshu would love to answer any of your questions, please. Keith, you were okay. Keith, would you like to ask this question on the video, or you want me to read it out? I can read it out. From our area of discussion today, how and where, example, revenue, operations, brand, have you seen our subject move the needle for the company? So Keith, can you just, Keith, are you there?
Yes, I am. While I have the floor, I must tell our speaker how many of his quotes that I have stolen today. And starting the very first one was the business case writes itself. And so my question is really around if you're inside a company and you're looking, or even you're somebody like TaUB, and you have an influencer or a direct sponsor, because we always talk about decision makers and decision influencers. How do we sell? How do we talk about what part of this helps our company move the needle, whether it be revenue, whether it be brand operations, whether it brand recognition, or day-to-day operations? Because when you're asking a company to set this up and be serious about it, you got to say, here's the value you will get from this. So I guess what I'm interested in is, from what you've seen, how has it helped the company overall in their go-to-market strategy or whatever it is?
In all of them, actually, my answer is that it not only helps in the revenue, but it also helps in the stickiness of the customers. And getting more business from existing customers is always easier than going after new customers. So if you're able to increase loyalty, if you're able to increase stickiness by including a bit of this psychological safety, or the empathy in the interaction, it adds up. It it helps customers give you more business, get more business from existing customers, and also word of mouth marketing and your reputation, your testimonials, everything is affected by that.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Ali, I'm happy to jump in with another one.
Sure, Keith.
So a lot of what I heard today, and it's funny, from the very beginning, the first thought, even within the first 5 minutes of speaking and all the way through, I kept hearing servant leadership, servant leadership, servant leadership. Because one of the things that we know is that one of the things that I think we know is that most organizations, or most people working in an organization, are a reflection of their direct leadership, right? And many times you can tell the culture from the leadership of the company. How do we get our leadership on board with everything that we discussed today?
Just show them the recording. Show them the recording of this webinar.
So Maybe this is my take, Keith. Again, if you see what we were saying, and Sudhanshu was also mentioning, is that by not having this kind of a culture, the loss, the business loss is going to be high. Okay. You will lose customers, you will lose employees. For example, we didn't talk much about employee experience, but if employee experience is not there and people quit, and the new onboarding, getting a new talent, okay, that's going to cost money. I mean, you can measure customer experience and employee experience in dollars, which I think a lot of leaders will understand that. Okay,
Yes,
saying that,
I agree.
by doing these kind of things, this is where your loss is. And those are the metrics one must measure, and you would probably get your, leadership to be online with this. And then one important thing Sudhanshu also mentioned is this kind of a cultural behavior should not be just like, I need to do it. It has to come from the heart. It has to come from the DNA of your organization. So that's my view. I see Pankaj raising his hand. Yeah, Pankaj, would you want to go ahead? Pankaj, you're on mute. I don't know if.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Hi, it's Sudhanshu. One quick question I have is I just came back from US on vacation, and this is my 10th visit from US to India. And once you come here, you find that I went to ICICI.
Sorry, Pankaj, your voice is trailing a bit. If you could get a little closer to the mic or.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
So I came from US, and the first week I went to ICICI Bank branch, and I found that the network is not working. It's a very nice, plush office, air conditioning, everything is there. But when I was trying to do some transaction, the network was not there. And I was surprised, like I'm not the first customer who would be raising this issue. And then I went to the shopping mall and I found a shaving cream. And I found the shaving cream is half full. It is plus full, but when I used it, I found it's half full. Only half content is being sold. These are just two experiences I had. And a couple of times I came earlier to other banks, I found there was no line system, no line making system, queuing system. I questioned, like, you guys travel to US, different countries. Don't you know how to arrange a simple queuing system which America has or other countries have? And I was surprised, like, why these people who are sitting in big banks, big companies, they don't implement those innovations, simple innovations which have been done. Now coming to CX part, when a customer travels, come to your branch and you find these issues, don't you think these issues already are known by the CXOs and they are just closing their eyes to it? So what is the purpose of all these surveys? Don't you think it's just an eye watch?
Yes. So it's more of a statement than a question. Sudhanshu, just any quick.
Yeah, so a lot of times the leadership of an organization, as the organization grows, you may think that CXO should already know all that, but it's obvious. But a lot of times they actually don't. That's why I said, when Kali asked me some of those last questions, what is that one thing we can do tomorrow? Listen to a customer call, map that customer journey. Some of these basic things, they are documented, they're written down, but not practiced because the people who are supposed to implement them don't have the empowerment or the empathy necessary to do it. And it's flowing down from the top. The CXO may have written down the right process, but he's never actually gone and met a customer, or not in recent time, gone and met a customer and actually seen what the customer is going through. That's why if you see, even in government departments, when a chief minister or a health minister goes and does a random inspection in a hospital, suddenly things start moving. It's not as though the process of cleanliness and hygiene don't exist. They do, but they don't get implemented because the leadership is far removed from the ground, and the people on the ground don't feel the need or the empathy or the empowerment to implement it. So I think it's some fundamental ways of implementing things which are missing. The process may be documented, written, and all that, but completely invisible to the people who are supposed to implement them. What in?
And sometimes, yeah, sorry, Suresh. I was just trying to go ahead with what Pankaj, because sometimes, Pankaj, the wrong metrics also get measured. I'll give you my personal example. For example, I couriered something in DTDC. And whenever I complain, they say, sir, it's delivered on time. But I'm trying to explain to them it has got delivered to the wrong address. but nowhere in their metrics it shows that it's gone to it. It all shows that it is delivered. So pure experience. Yes, Suresh, you.
So, a great conversation, Kali and Sudhanshu. So, one question that comes in when we go for engagements is that how do you measure metrics for individuals who are in customer service? Because we all talk about first call resolution, response time, resolution time, and traditionally we have beaten SLA to death, right? So, from a experience standpoint, how do we measure representatives, whether it is service desk, service delivery management, or customer support? How do we make them accountable? What kind of metrics is going to be indicated towards, whether you call it as performance indicators, KPIs, OKRs, whatever it is, that will change the behavior in the way we talk about customer experience across the end-to-end value chain?
So one of the things that I said as a part of my some of the questions is that celebrate the right behaviors. You may not be able to do it for the entire population, but at least if you are listening to some random calls, if you're actually measuring the sentiment analysis or the customer's voice, and also looking at how many dissatisfied customers have stayed with the company, how many how quickly agents have managed to turn them around and convert them from dissatisfied to satisfied, and how quickly the problems have been resolved across across the channels. So some of those things, I mean, it will take a study of the customer journey in an organization to see what touch points are there, and each touch point, what are you measuring? It's an exercise that needs to be undertaken with certain detail to get. But when you start celebrating the right incidents or the right examples, then the message goes across the organization, and everybody starts behaving like that.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true that what we are evolving the culture of an organization that talks
Yes.
about customer centricity, and it becomes an essence of life, right? And
Yes.
very, very thoughtful, insightful conversations, Sudhanshu, very practical, pragmatic part of it. Hope our viewers as well as our people who are here have got some more insights about it. So over to you, Kali. Thanks.
Yeah, so I don't know any more questions from anyone else before I hand over to.
Hey, this is Keith. I have one more, and it's directly related to what Suresh just shared. So, Sudhanshu, you'll be tickled to know that over 20 years ago, I worked for a call center company, and we had call centers across the country, 2 to 400 seat call centers. And one of the internal metrics, if you will, was that each agent had to be observed taking a call 5 times a month. And they knew that. And it was interesting the behavior that the agent would exhibit when the supervisor is standing over their shoulder versus their calls are being recorded 5 times a month, but they don't know when it's happening. And there was technology that brought that capability to the table. And one of the things that I leave this conversation with today is yes, that's cool. And yes, it's significant. And yes, it could be important, but only if the leadership does something about what they're learning from those things. And Suresh, you reminded me of that experience.
Absolutely. Thanks. So, Neeta, you'll do the honors now.
Yeah, sure. So thank you, Sudhanshu. Thank you, Kali. This was such a rich conversation. A few closing items. So we are going to share the recording with all of you along with the poll results and also the key takeaways. And I'm sure some of you would like to connect with Sudhanshu on LinkedIn. I just wanted to share his LinkedIn handle here. Sudhanshu has some great posts on great leadership posts and on human connection, and he is genuinely worth connecting. If you'd like to learn more about TaUB Solutions, if you have your phone handy, you can just use your scanner to check Sudhanshu's profile. And if you'd like to learn more about TaUB Solutions training programs, we just talked about human signal, and we talked about digital noise being something that we have to human signal wins over. So if you'd like to know more about our trainings, you could reply to the mail, the follow-up mail that we'd be sending. Um, I'm sorry, I'm not so good at probably sharing things. I'll just do it once again. Okay. So just wanted to share with you our upcoming trainings. We talked about XLA, experience level agreements. So these are some of our upcoming batches. We also provide business relationship management trainings. So you could just reply to our email. Our batches are in both EST and IST time zone. And before we wrap up, I wanted to share with you something exciting, which is the next webinar that we are hosting. Again, okay, yeah. So we'll have Pauline Martian, who is the portfolio director, total experience at Computer Center. The next webinar is reframing IT from service delivery to value creation. So there's this QR code. You could scan it, and you could probably register your spot. I'm sure you will enjoy our next webinar as well. Thank you so much, and see you next time on 28th May. Thanks a lot, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.